Ever wonder why the leads always manage to dodge death? Why does everyone in the drama seem too stupid to tell that a girl is in disguise? And why is there always somebody constantly coughing up blood in almost every Chinese period drama? Well, today we are breaking it all down for you. First and foremost, there's the rain. While actors' performances are essential for conveying emotion, sometimes the weather steps in to amplify the mood. That's why in so many TV dramas, rain becomes a dramatic necessity. When the emperor orders someone to kneel as punishment, it rains. When the lead begs the emperor for mercy, it rains. When a character admits fault and seeks forgiveness, it rains. On top of that, the kneeling character often has some underlying physical ailment, and after kneeling in the rain, they inevitably fall seriously ill. Beyond signaling the protagonist's dire situation, the rain also underscores their unyielding spirit or the depth of their remorse. A perfect example is in Xijin. Yu Jin, who only wished for one lifelong love, knelt before the emperor, begging him to revoke the edict that ordered him to marry 2 women. In the pouring rain with tearful eyes and a hoarse voice, he knelt for a long time without rising. What a moving sight. In Chinese period dramas, fighting, injuries, and illness are all but inevitable. So how do you signal to the audience that a character is seriously hurt? Spitting blood becomes a surprisingly useful device. Take Love and Redemption. For example, Chen Yu spits blood over 70 times across a series, averaging about twice per episode. In Pursuit with Jade, lying on a sickbed, Chen Yu says, "I should have signed the divorce papers long ago." Overcome with emotion, she drinks blood charms, and he cups up a mouth full of blood, nearly losing consciousness. Yet the first thing he does upon waking is to ask her, "Are we still getting a divorce?" Humble, yet stubbornly persistent. In reality, spitting blood indicates a severe physical trauma, and it did appear in earlier Chinese dramas as well, usually to show that a character was gravely injured or terminally ill with no hope of recovery. Little did anyone expect that it would become such a frequent trope in today's dramas. Now, whenever the plot calls for visible injury and internal suffering that the audience can easily grasp, having a character spit blood gets the job done. And since fake blood is relatively cheap compared to the cost of honing an actor's craft, well, why not go for it? Repeatedly. If spitting blood is a measure that has to be faked, then eating, something that should be easy to do for real, turns out to be surprisingly difficult. Tang Yuan's eating scene in her new drama A Moment But Forever was criticized so harshly that it trended on social media. In the drama, she held a bread up to her nose, sniffed it, and exclaimed, "It smells so good." But her mouth just opened without actually taking a bite. When the camera zoomed in, the bread's surface wasn't even broken, yet her cheeks were pretentiously chewing away. The fake eating was painfully obvious to everyone. However, her eating scene in Blossoms Shanghai was remarkably well done. Holding a large bowl and digging into the rice, she made it look truly delicious. Soup dripped down the corner of her mouth and she didn't even bother wiping it away. The scene was turned into GIFs by netizens and widely shared. Everyone said the way she ate really whetted their appetite. To be fair, we can't entirely blame the actors for faking it. Many productions these days, to save time and pursue so-called visual perfection, shoot a single scene 10 or even 20 times. Under such circumstances, if actors actually ate, they'd have to stuff an enormous amount of food. Moreover, some productions cut costs by using plastic props as food, making it impossible for actors to take a real bite even if they wanted to. That's why you often see tables full of delicious dishes, yet after the actors have been eating for half the scene, nothing has actually been consumed. But compared to leads who simply cannot be killed, none of the above is particularly outrageous. Take Xiao Zhan and The Legend of Zheng Hai. For example, despite enduring countless hardships, his entire family killed, his friends killed, his mentor killed, he remains completely unscathed, always finding a way to survive against all odds. Of course, this isn't hard to understand. If the protagonist dies, what would the drama be about? Speaking of protagonists who just can't seem to die, one ordeal that nearly every main character must go through is falling off a cliff. Thus, the cliff-driving trope in period dramas is also a staple. No matter how high the cliff, jumping off always gives the character a better chance of survival. Especially if there's a lake or sea at the bottom, survival is practically guaranteed. Some survivors use the information gap, the fact that the world believes them dead, to plot revenge. Others lose their memory and are rescued and nursed back to healthy by a beautiful woman, leading to romance. In short, jumping off a cliff has many advantages. On top of these, some tropes seem ridiculous at first glance, but actually make perfect sense. Take, for example, the woman disguised as a man trope. The audience can tell immediately, yet no one in the drama ever notices. Think of the legend of Anlaw. Rananlaw, played by Cdrama, disguises herself as a man and works alongside the crown prince for a long time before her true identity is accidentally discovered. In Legend of the Female General, the female lead, Halyan's male disguise, is not revealed until the 5th episode. People often exclaim, "Are these characters blind? With her delicate skin, rosy lips, and fair face, how can they not see she's a woman?" But everyone seems to forget that these dramas are set in ancient times. Back then, it wasn't convenient for women to go out freely. Their activities were largely confined to the home, the courtyard, or the palace, under a very strict hierarchical system. As a result, most people wouldn't even consider the possibility of a woman disguising herself as a man, let alone immediately see through a young lady holding a fan and acting suave. Furthermore, men's and women's clothing and hairstyle were completely different in ancient times. If a woman tied her hair up like a man and wore men's clothes, few would have any reason to suspect she was cross-dressing. That's why in these dramas, it's only when her hair accidentally comes loose, or the male lead inadvertently touches her chest, that the character suddenly realizes she's a woman. So it's actually quite logical. What's more, over 1,400 years ago, during the Wei Jin and Northern Southern dynasties, men's aesthetic standards were unique. At the time, the ideal man had to be fair-skinned, even fairer than women. Many men loved to apply powder and maintain their complexion, so having fair, smooth, and delicate skin was nothing out of the ordinary. Under such circumstances, telling men and women apart was even more difficult. Interestingly enough, it's not easy to tell women from men, but it's quite easy to tell who's pregnant. Whether in period dramas or modern dramas, if a woman dry heaves or suddenly mentions out of nowhere that she's been craving sour foods lately, then congratulations, she's pregnant. A typical scene goes like this. During a meal, the female lead suddenly gets up, covers her mouth, and rushes outside to dry heave while leaning against a tree. Meaning the male lead is so cluelessly asking, "Are you feeling unwell? Did you eat something bad?" Then a doctor is called to take her pulse, and the next words are, "Congratulations." Of course, this isn't hard to understand. Unlike modern times where we have pregnancy tests and blood tests back then, the most common signs of pregnancy were dry heaving and suddenly changes in appetite. So the simple and direct formula was dry heaving equals pregnancy. And to highlight the romance between the male and female leads, certain cliches, though familiar, are impossible to resist. Take the drunken female must-have in almost all dramas. The female lead, whether acting while or showing her vulnerable side, uses the unfiltered honesty that comes with alcohol to confess her feelings. The male lead, in turn, takes devoted care of her, carrying her in his arms or piggybacked her and gently soothing her to sleep in. The prisoner of beauty, for example, Xiao Chao, comes home stumbling drunk, and Wei Xiao lifts her over his shoulder to carry her to bed. Watching her sleep soundly, he can't help but steal a kiss on her forehead. There's nothing overly passionate about the scene, yet it still tugs at the heartstrings. And the trope isn't entirely without reason. Using drunkenness as a prelude to a confession is common in real life too, as many Chinese believe that alcohol brings out the truth. When both people are sober, doubts remain, but once a clear sign of affection is given, who wouldn't feel a secret thrill? Do you know other routine plots in Chinese dramas? Drop them in the comment section. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Chinese Star Buzz. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for forthcoming updates, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.